Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start talking. It's really what I have to say. If you hear me, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Only those people like Doug will hear me and benefit from the insights that I am going to share with you this evening. Thank you so much. Welcome. My name is Edward Lanphier. I'm the chairman of the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. I'm also the president and CEO at Sangamo BioSciences. It's a real pleasure to be here and to welcome you all. We've had a very productive day of committee meetings, section meetings, board meetings, a immuno-oncology patient advocacy group, and now our Legislator of the Year award. And we also have several speakers tonight. So I'm going to try and get out of the way. And tomorrow we have, I think, Michael, it's 60-some people going up on the Hill. And I'm sure you'll have some words for us. So a very productive, very well-represented group today. I guess I have about a half a dozen slides, and I'm only going to ask you to, well, this is a sponsorship. Only look at the far left hand. No, I'm kidding. I'm only going to ask you to look at this one slide, and there was a computer up here. I was planning to read this because in an emphasized and poignant way. But in all seriousness, what I'm going to talk about and what the Alliance is really about, I think, is well captured in our mission statement. And so I'll keep talking, but I would ask you all to read it. The elements of this really do capture the heterogeneity of our organization, of industry, of patient advocates, of research institutions, of foundations. It's an organization that really brings to bear the kind of issues, the kind of perspectives that I think are important in advanced therapies and in regenerative medicine. And the goal really isn't just to talk about these therapies or to develop these as a research function. The goal really is to move these forward in a way that provides broad access to the greatest number of patients in the most responsible way. And I think we all should feel very, very proud to be involved in that process. And so just a couple of quick slides, and this is an eye test for all of you, or this one's not, but this just gives you a sense of the momentum within the organization. 670 clinical trials, and look at the middle piece here. You know, a big part of that, 2/3 of these, are in phase 2 trials. There's an enormous amount of activity going on, moving forward towards, you know, not only proof of concept in terms of safety and efficacy, but moving towards pivotal studies. And that's a very, very exciting opportunity for all of us. Here, this begins the eye chart efforts, and not just for you, for me. I've got to actually see this down here and remember what's on these slides. We're going to hear a lot about GSK's ADA SCID approval in Europe. I can't overstate how important I think that is from an industry perspective to show the world there's a path forward to genetically modified cell therapies, and I think that's a big step. Obviously, we heard a lot today about the cancer immunotherapy space, and we're going to hear later tonight from one of the patients who have really benefited from that. And at the bottom of the slide is an area that I think is getting more and more visibility, and that's really now on the in vivo gene therapy side. And just 2 weeks ago here in Washington was the American Society of Gene and Cell Therapy annual scientific meeting. And the bar is going up and up and up in terms of protein replacements. BioMarin presented data showing 50% of normal circulating levels of factor VIII. And that's a huge development for the space, and particularly for people like myself who've been working on that kind of outcome for 25 years. So we're really making enormous progress. Also, you know, while the financial markets are not particularly robust right now, you know, we're into an election year and there's a lot of uncertainty out there. There are aspects of the financing markets, particularly in the genome editing space, that have really been white hot from an investor perspective. There's also been significant partnerships that are being done, and those partnerships are incredibly validating for the investment community. And then in Europe, we've also seen significant progress as well. I'm sorry, I can't read it. In terms of ARM accomplishments, this is really a short list. The ARM organization, the committees, the sections have been enormously busy. I just highlight the regulatory affairs and government affairs group in terms of their involvement, the reimbursement committee. There's been an enormous amount of progress, but there's still an awful lot to be done. And this just gives you a sense of some of the priorities of the organization. Reimbursement and patient access, that's particularly relevant as we now move into late-stage clinical trials. Also standards and setting standards for product approvals so that we know what that is. That's critical from an investment perspective and from moving products forward in a reliable way. And finally, I just want to say this kind of function doesn't happen by accident. It happens because there's a lot of people who have done a lot of work to pull it together, not just tonight, but the organization in general. And I'd like to acknowledge the staff and their efforts, and in particular, the co-founders of the organization, Michael Warner and Maury Ruffin. So thank you both very much. And with that very fast intro, I'll now go back and start to drink my wine, which I haven't done, and I'll introduce Maury Ruffin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edward. Just adjust the microphone slightly. Actually, I wasn't meant to do this. I was under my breath. So, Edward, actually, I want to use this opportunity to also acknowledge you. So, thank you for mentioning the staff, and we have a tremendous staff here, actually, at ARM. Bethany, Chelsea, I'm not going to name them all, many of them, they are, I mean, without them, we really can't do the things that we do for this organization and for this community. And it really is a tremendous team. They work well together, and it's a growing team as well. But we also have, I think, very inspired leadership from our board and from our officers. And so I also want to thank you, Edward, and the other officers as well, if we give a hand to you for... Edward eagerly raised his hand when the slot of chair opened up. Okay. Oh, sorry. We go back a long time, but I think we were thrilled to have Edward come in as chair, and he's done a tremendous job leading this organization.